Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's presentation. My name is Marlene Ruiz and I am a field advisor for the CalSO program. I have the pleasure of presenting to you guys on FAFSA and CADA, what both applications are and why it is important. Later in tonight's presentation, we will have an opportunity for questions, so please feel free to either write them in the chat or wait till the very end. We're going to start off with what is the FAFSA. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It is a free online application that can qualify students to receive financial aid. The FAFSA application should be submitted during the senior year of a high school student and must be renewed every single year that the student is enrolled in college. The application does open on October 1st, and the deadline for the submission is March 2nd. This qualifies students for both federal aid and state aid. So again, filling out the FAFSA application before March 2nd can qualify students to receive Pell Grant, Cal Grant, student loans, scholarships, and other types of aid. So remember, you have from October 1st to March 2nd to submit the FAFSA application in order to qualify for both federal and state aid. Now that we have reviewed what the FAFSA is, let's go ahead and take a look at the requirements for the FAFSA. In order to start the FAFSA, a student must create an FSA-ID. The FSA-ID stands for Federal Student Aid Identification. The FSA-ID allows students and parents to identify themselves electronically and access the Federal Student Aid website. An FSA-ID is made up of a username and password and can be used to log into the FAFSA. Students will have to create an FSA-ID in order to electronically sign their application. If a parent has a social security number, they will also need to create an FSA-ID. This will be used to electronically sign their student's FAFSA application. We will also need student's social security number, parent's social security number if applicable, student's driver's license if applicable, the 2019 federal tax return and W-2 information for both parents and students, records of untaxed income such as child support, veterans, non-educational benefits, etc., information on cash, account balances, investments. This includes stock and bonds, real estate, business, and farm assets. Moving on with the CADA application. So we already looked at the FAFSA application and the requirements. So let's go ahead and look at the CADA. So the CADA stands for California Dream Act application. It is a financial aid application for undocumented students and non-resident students who qualify for AB 540. The AB 540 affidavit allows eligible students to pay in-state tuition at any public college in California. Students that are eligible to apply for the California Dream Act can only qualify for state aid. So this includes scholarships, university grants, community college waivers, and Cal Grant. The requirements for the CADA application are very similar to those of the FAFSA application. We're going to start off with the 2019 federal tax return and W-2 information. This is going to be for both students and parents. Records of the untaxed income such as child support, veterans, non-educational benefits if applicable, and information on cash, account balances, investments. This includes stocks and bonds, real estate and businesses, as well as farm assets. What is the difference and how will I know what application to fill out? I should mention that a student will only complete and submit one financial aid application. Students will complete the FAFSA if they are a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, eligible non-citizen, or a T visa holder. Students will fill out the DREAM Act application if they are undocumented, have a valid or expired DACA, are U visa holders, have a TPS or temporary protective status, and meet the non-resident exemption requirement under AB 540. Now that we have viewed both financial aid applications, we're going to go into different types of financial aid. So the first is going to be gift aid. It's grants or scholarships that do not have to be repaid. So an example of this is the Pell Grant, Cal Grant, school-based grants, scholarships, and middle class scholarship. Work, which is money earned by the student as a form of payment for an on or off campus job. And loans, this is money that is borrowed and must be paid back and usually with interest. We're going to start off by talking about gift aid. First up is federal gift aid, which is also known as Pell Grant. This is free money funded by the federal government, awarded based on a financial need if the student is part-time or full-time and the cost of attendance. Students will apply for Pell Grant through the Federal Student Aid website, which is www.fafsa.ed.gov. The maximum award for Pell Grant is of $6,345. The student must demonstrate a financial need and must be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen. An eligible non-citizen would be a student that is a permanent resident with a permanent residency card. Additionally, we have state gift aid, which is also known as Cal Grants. There are three different types of Cal Grant, which is Cal Grant A, Cal Grant B, and Cal Grant C. I would like to note that there is no separate application for Cal Grant. As long as the student applies for either the FAFSA or the CAUTA, it will then turn into a Cal Grant application. In order for students to qualify for Cal Grant A, they must at least have a 3.0 GPA and be enrolled in a four-year university. Students attending AUC can receive up to $12,570. If they are attending a CSU, they can receive up to $5,742. And if they are attending a qualifying private California college, they can receive up to $9,084. Students with dependent children may also be eligible for $6,000 of Access Award. If a student is attending a community college before transferring into a four-year university, their Cal Grant A will be placed on hold until they transfer. In order for students to qualify for Cal Grant B, they must have at least a 2.0 GPA. They can receive up to $1,672 for the first year. After the first year, Cal Grant B can also pay for tuition and fees. Additionally, the students will still receive the $1,672. And just like Cal Grant A, if a student has dependent children, they may be eligible for a $6,000 in Access Award. For the previous two Cal Grants, Cal Grant A and Cal Grant B, they're classified as entitlement grants, which means as long as the student meets the requirement, they will be awarded the Cal Grant. Cal Grant C is a little bit different. It is a competitive Cal Grant, which means there is no GPA requirement. It is for low to middle income students. For students pursuing an occupational or technical training program of at least 4 months, they can receive up to $2,462 for tuition and fees, and $547 for books, tools, and equipment. $1,094 of that money can be used at a California community college, and students with dependent children can also be eligible for up to $4,000 in Access Award. The middle class scholarship is also an additional type of gift aid. It's also known as the MCS. So the MCS does provide undergraduate students with family income up to $184,000 a scholarship to attend a UC, a CSU, or California Community College with the baccalaureate program. They may receive the MCS award for up to 4 years, depending on the education level when they are awarded. After they submit the FAFSA or CAUTA application, and once they have been accepted to a CSU, a UC, or a community college baccalaureate program, the student will automatically be considered for MCS, so there is no additional application. Those students whose family's income and assets are up to $184,000 a year may be eligible for a scholarship amount between 10 to 40% of the mandatory statewide tuition and fees. The MCS scholarships are not a set amount, and they may vary by institution. Scholarships are also a different type of gift aid. There are millions of scholarships for students to apply to, and they come from various entities, starting with college and universities, foundations, individuals, community-based organizations, companies, and churches. A few ways that students can find these resources and scholarships are going to be through their high school counselor. They can also visit different search engines such as FastWeb, MalDef, Immigrants Rising, Current Foundations. They can also visit their local libraries, local organizations such as churches and clubs, contact parents' place of employment, and contact the college of their choice. Moving on, we're going to start with the type of financial aid that is not gift aid. Loans is a type of financial aid that will have to be repaid, and there are two different types, starting with student loans and parent loans. So student loans are designed to help the student pay for college, for their books and living expenses. This is at a low interest rate, and there's no credit check for the student. Parent loans is also designed to help the parent pay for their students' college tuition, books, and living expenses, and usually it's at a higher rate than the student loans. Let's take a deeper look at types of loans. So first we have student loans. So starting with subsidized loans, the U.S. Department of Education pays for the interest on the loan. Meanwhile, the student is enrolled in the college at least half time. The student has 6 months after graduation to start paying off the loan. And then we also have unsubsidized loan. So there's no requirement to demonstrate financial need. The student is responsible for the interest during the entire time. And if the student chooses not to pay for the interest meanwhile they're in school, the interest will be added onto their loan amount. For parent loans, we have Direct Plus Loan. It is available to parents of dependent undergraduate students enrolled at least half-time. It is an unsubsidized loan, which means that the parent is responsible for the interest that is accumulating. The parent can also request for the loan to be up to the full cost of attendance of the school. Steps to applying for financial aid are going to start with planning early. So we want to make sure that we retrieve all documents needed in order to fill out the appropriate application. Fill out the FAFSA or CADA. Review your student aid report or California aid report. So if a student is filling out the FAFSA, they will have a student aid report. If the student is filling out the CADA, then they will have a California aid report. The student then will receive their financial aid at their institution of choice. And just as a friendly reminder, the FAFSA and CADA open up October 1st and should be completed and submitted by March 2nd. Let's go ahead and review what we've covered so far. So we went over the FAFSA application and the CADA application. We went over the types of financial aid, starting with gift aid, work, and loans. And now let's go ahead and touch on why it's important to apply to financial aid. Financial aid can help students pay for college. Students can possibly graduate without any loans and debt-free. Financial aid allows students to concentrate on school versus work. So for every hour that a student is in the classroom, a student is to study 2 hours outside of the classroom. Also, let's touch on some myths that I've heard. So my parents make too much money, only students with good grades get financial aid, and the form is too hard to fill out. So let's start with the first one. Let's debunk this. My parents make too much money. As we saw a few slides ago, the middle class scholarship allows parents and families to make up to $184,000 and still qualify for some aid. So only students with good grades get financial aid, which is also false. The only type of aid that requires a GPA or grades is the Cal Grant. Students still can apply and be eligible for every other type of financial aid that we talked about during this presentation. And the form is too hard to fill out. This may be true. It might be a long process. However, there are various different resources for student impaired to take advantage. One of them is attending a Cash for College event, which you can get professional assistance with the financial aid application, either the FAFSA or CADA, and they are hosted all over Kern County. This does conclude our presentation. I wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for participating in our event tonight. We will be here to answer any questions or anything that wasn't clear, so please feel free to ask away. And once again, thank you for your participation.